Okay, I think this is it. Thank you for coming. I'm Walter Swift. I live in Lyme, New Hampshire in the winters, and I try to live here in the summers. The purpose of this meeting is to answer questions and maybe give you a bit more of a description of what this project is about. We are endeavoring to bring high-speed internet service to Cliff Island. The primary parties involved are the nonprofit organization Sustainable Cliff Island, a new LLC, which right now is just me, called CI Fiber, and an outfit called Axiom Technologies. And the intent of the project is to improve the future sustainability on Cliff Island. It's a community project. It's not a substantial profit-making project. And the outcome of it, we hope, is service to the school and library, internet service that meets the main school and library network specifications. Right now, every school and library in Maine is supposed to get 100 megabits per second down, 100 megabits per second up, download, upload speeds, high speeds. Cliff Island gets 10 each direction. They do not meet the requirements that they pay, and they're limited because the copper content, or the copper in the wiring system that is supplied by the undersea cable, by now Consolidated Communications, used to be Fairpoint, is a restricting technology, but there's a dedicated T1 line for the school.
I think it's 8 bonded T1 lines. Each T1 line is 1.5 meg, and so they bond a number of them together to get the 10 meg.
But they're all basically copper.
It's over copper.
Yeah. So
it's not sistered alongside the phone, so they can get more out of it than they can get. But it isn't a lot.
in any case, it's way below the required capacity. And if we install a fiber optic system with microwave link that I'll describe, school library will get 100 megs a second down and up. And in fact, individual subscribers on the island will get that speed. Another initiative that is going on, well, the other part of the initiative is that we will, Cliff Island subscribers will meet the definitions of the Federal Communication Committee requirements, which is, they have an arbitrary definition that in order to be compliant with today's needs, you should have 25 megabits per second download speed and 3 megabits per second upload speed. That's an FCC regulation or advisory. And most rural communities in the U.S. don't have that. Cliff Island certainly doesn't have it, can't get it, not with the copper structure they've got coming through Consolidated Communications. So the fiber optic link will be able to meet those requirements. We expect to implement communications that are compatible with telemedicine facilities. And maybe I can talk a little bit about that more later. The project will be owned and controlled by Cliff Island homeowners, property owners, residents. It won't be Consolidated Communications, it won't be Comcast, it'll be neighbors. And finally, this will build a solid infrastructure on the island that has a life of at least 30 years. So it's good for the future, independent of what other technology changes might occur to supply the service. We're laying pipe, basically. Looks like this. So, going to the history of bit. It started basically as a result of sustainable Cliff Island activities. Key people there were Cheryl Crowley, Bob Howard, Eric Anderson, Roger Burley. They've been working for years, focusing on projects like the medical clinic with remote telemedicine capability. And this is a facility that depends primarily on high upload speeds, that is the speeds of communication back to the mainland, back to the main centers where the professionals are that can provide support to a remote place like this. And DSL, conventional DSL, which is the copper-based wiring that was designed for telephone communications that exist on the line, doesn't have the capability of meeting those speed requirements. You can't send images back up to the medical center fast enough for them to be diagnosed in a reasonable time, things like that. So one of Sustainable Cliff Island's primary goals was to build a telemedicine capability clinic, and that's in process. They also focus on sites for year-round residency and housing, making it possible for people to work from home, to keep more people on the island for longer periods of time. Another project is the fuel depot service on island and passing boats. And finally, a combination of those endeavors resulted in a desire to improve the high-speed internet capability, the broadband service for the island. Sustainable Cliff Island is a nonprofit organization. They cannot participate materially in commercial activities, and this internet service is considered by the federal government to be a commercial activity. So they explored other potential sources of funding in order to build it. And last year, they funded a design study where they requested respondents to come up with cost figures, configuration figures for what a network or a solution to the island's lack of speed and internet capability would look like. In the process of doing that work, I got involved in a couple of the meetings with Sustainable Cliff Island where they talked about the lack of speed in the internet capability. I live in Lyme, and we're doing facing comparable challenges there because we're rural, low population density. The big guns like Fairpoint, Consolidated, Comcast, Time Warner couldn't find it economically viable to come into our town, string a lot of cable for 700 buildings. Maybe they'd get half of them, but it made no sense. So I got involved in looking into the possibility of doing what we are doing in Lyme, which is creating a privately owned limited liability company to fund the installation of a network and the operation of a network. In this case, one advantage is the network would be owned and operated by this local private company. The investors who support the project would be local, and they would be participants in managing the decision-making process as to changes in the network. The company is basically a funding and managing company, not a company to get into day-to-day operations or day-to-day construction, although we would be involved in the oversight of construction and the oversight of the management, basically checking on how the internet service provider behaved, performed, assuring that he made specs, assuring that his costs stayed reasonable. Because once the infrastructure is built and on the ground and the hookups are made, we could hire other suppliers of the broadband service to hook up to the hardware that would be owned by Cliff Island CI Fiber.
Okay.
Yes.
The term broadband was on that first screen,
Yes.
and I'm hearing you that, what is broadband?
Broadband is a technical, well, it's a defined term used by the Federal Communication Commission to define a tolerable speed of internet communication. So broadband means you need to be able to get 25 megabits per second download speed, 3 megabits per second upload speed. If you can get service that's that fast, then you qualify as a broadband entity.
So that's basically internet.
It's a speed,
And
it's
I
a speed
understand
rating for the internet,
It's
right?
somehow was also going to provide television and telephone
Yeah, think of the internet as a pipeline.
as a
Pipeline,
pipeline.
yeah.
Yeah.
A pipeline that goes someplace. It has links, connections all over the place. And what flows through that pipeline can be email, can be movies, can be music, can be television channels.
Fox News.
Fox News, yeah, you can get that. Sports packages, depending on,
How about telephone?
yes, telephone.
Okay, so that's why I'm confused, because I was hearing from Roger that you get your telephone, you get television, and I don't see any of that mentioned there.
No, I'm talking mostly about this, I'll call it the superstructure or the infrastructure. It's the pipeline. We're gonna lay cabling like this
Yeah,
that carries signals, the same way a telephone wire does, except that this is fiber optic, not copper.
so that cable
This
can
cable,
support all those other ones, but a subscription to this company, you still have to go to some telephone company and pay them for your phone, and pay somebody for your TV.
yes, partially.
Yes.
But that's a detail I'd like to go into later.
Oh, okay.
Bob Lux has prepared some
Just trying to look at.
some descriptive material. Think of what we're doing as laying pipe, except that it's fiber optic pipe and the switching mechanisms to get the information to and from the mainland and to Cliff Island. And I'll show that in a slide later on. But what I wanted to describe is the three entities who are involved, and that's Sustainable Cliff Island, basically that started with the concept of general improvements on Cliff Island to make it more sustainable. The CI Fiber Group, which is a limited liability company that is formed primarily to fund this construction and to control it after it's built. And then Axiom Technologies, I'll go to in a second, who are an operating company. They actually supply the information. It's the equivalent, I don't want to say this, it's not the equivalent of Fairpoint Communications. They're far better, but they do the same service, but at much higher speed, higher reliability, and with equipment that is 40 years newer than what Fairpoint and Consolidated were using. And I guess the bottom line is that the LLC itself is going to be controlled by local people, local investors. Axiom Technologies is an outfit that's located up in Machias. That's their home base. And they are presently building similar networks on Isla Ho, the Cranberry Islands. They built out Washington County, which is a very sparsely populated rural community. They've used combinations of microwave transmission, fiber optic over cable transmissions. They've used DSL in some places where it's necessary. They've used Wi-Fi connections. In general, they deal with small, challenging projects in underserved communities, and they work very hard at keeping their costs reasonable, coming up with solutions that conventional outfits like the larger telephone companies, Verizon, AT&T, Fairpoint, Consolidated, and cable companies like Comcast and Time Warner just don't build into their operating we see in terms of how they behave and how they want to collaborate with us, the buyer, to get jobs done. So they're the ISP. They're gonna do the billing. They're gonna build the network. They are the people with the expertise to do the job. The LLC is just a group of investors who are gonna manage the effort and own the infrastructure once it's built. We have a schedule. The original work done by Sustainable Cliff Island, primarily, the first part of it was to fund a design study that was responded to by Axiom Technologies. That was done in late 2017. Over spring and early summer 2018, some negotiations went on between Axiom Technology, Sustainable Cliff Island. Sustainable also looked into other options, that is, Fairpoint Communications, Consolidated Communications, to see whether they could do some work to improve the situation here. And the final work on the project, decision to go with the LLC was made in early August. In early August, I did the work to fund and to organize the LLC. So that's August 2018. Right now we have a target of construction start on October 1st. Actually putting shovels in the ground. And we expect to have the system running in about May 2019. So the Axiom will be working through the winter to lay the cable, to put the electronics in here, and do the rest of the work. The business structure, I think this is a more organized picture of it, but the LLC is a combination of summer and full year island residents. Those are the investors, basically, who will come up with the $350,000 necessary to build the network. We expect that Cliff Island Association will supply the space here in the community hall for the electronics. We're going to put a microwave tower on top of the building to receive the signal, transmit the signal to one city center. There's a picture of that network. And the CI Fiber members, the investors, will retain ownership and control the entity. Axiom Technology is responsible for building it. They're going to be responsible for supplying all the hardware. And they are basically going to rent access to the network that we built in order to supply individual customers with the services they want. The role of the Cliff Island subscribers, the homeowners, is to pay the invoices that they receive from Axiom for the services. They'll pay them directly. We're also going to use some island residents to do some to work as subcontractors to lay the cable and to provide customer support once the system is up and running. And the product of that will be that subscribers will receive state-of-the-art service through the system. This is the pricing structure that Axiom will be charging. They've got a brochure that there's a handout, I think, at the back of the room that has more information about installation and pricing. I can go through it in detail if you have questions, but it was presented by Mark Millett, and basically they are charging these three rates either monthly or annually. The 25.5 megabit per second service is the lowest speed. It's fast enough for most people to be able to watch Netflix somewhat higher speeds in order to upload and back up computers to cloud services. This is important for small business owners who are on the island perhaps and need to stay in touch with their business connections. And then there's the 100-200 service, which is primarily for super fast, reliable service. It's not likely that many people on the island will need it, want it, but it's available. There's a seasonal rating discount that allows people to have a disconnect for 6 months during the year, but they only get a 15% discount in the pricing on an annual basis. And that's a tough one for many people to accept, but without it, the project wouldn't be financially doable. The major cost of this effort is laying the cable, and it gets laid throughout the island whether people subscribe or not. And so in order to recapture that amount of money and pay the investors back something, they need to maintain annual rates that are high enough to make the monthly payments on payback. There's a little tweak in the service pricing, and that is that for these speeds, the 25, 5, 50, 10, 120 are asymmetric. That means the download speed is much faster than the upload speed. And in the old days, that was the best way to commercially sell this service. The telephone companies did it early on. And within the last 5 years, since the cloud, that is the infinite number of computer servers that are located around the world that have become substantial parts of storing and transmitting information, they are now being used commonly for uploading, for storing information on individual computers. Like, well, Apple has its iCloud, and other services, Google has cloud services where you can back up your computer, your personal computer, everything on this gadget, to some larger group of servers that are sit out there in the world someplace. But the transmit time to do that can be a killer. If you have 50 gigabytes of information that has to be sent overnight to a computer someplace in order so that all your stuff is saved someplace remote from your house, the amount of time it takes to upload that information by old standards is humongous. And this is important in medical facilities and applications, insurance business, small businesses involved with insurance, places where large amounts of information have to be uploaded to larger corporate entities. The result is that the new communications protocols have encouraged symmetric service so that 100 megabits per second down isn't crippled by 20 megabits per second up. You can get symmetric speeds of 100 to 100. And this permits faster transmit speeds for storage. It also reduces the times internet networks fail as a result of switching problems. If you have a lot of data going up at high speed and you start to go out of synchronization, this is beyond my level of understanding totally, but it causes interruptions in the control circuits that monitor the speeds, and it can cause drops in service. Frequently, it's a major cause of Fairpoint communication and telephone-style DSL services from dropping out and losing sync. And you have to pull the power plug on your modem out, and plug it back in, and it resyncs, stuff like that. Anyway, for $5 a month, that's a long explanation for getting onto the fact that for $5 a month extra on these monthly fees, you can get symmetric service, which is quite a bit of help if you have to do a lot of network uploading. This is a picture of what the network's going to look like. There's some red lines. Those are the main trunk lines, and the lines that will run along the right-of-ways owned by the city, and for which we have to negotiate the use of those right-of-ways. The yellow lines are the fibers that go to individual homes. And this is a preliminary design. It's been worked on by Bob Howard and the technician from Axiom Technologies. And it's under constant revision and will be until around October 1st when they've optimized how they link different places. There are two combinations of fiber. This is a main trunk sort of line. It contains 48 bundles, or a bundle of 48 connections in it. It can be laid on the ground, it can be laid under the ground, it can be put through PVC pipe where folks feel it's necessary. It's robust, and it'll serve 48 houses. We'll need 3 of them to get to every house on the island. Those are shown as the red lines on that network. Everything in yellow is a single pair of fiber connections that are about the size of human hair. And those, even though they're only the size of human hair, they are also bundled in these wonderfully structural plastic tubes that are rated for underground, on-ground use, waterproof, things like that. What have we got there?
That's the drop feed.
That's the drop feed. That goes to somebody's house. And the plan is to either lay these across your lawn. I want to say one thing. Or under your lawn. These guys are primarily going to be buried along the right-of-way in non-landscape areas. In places where they can run along the spine of the island, across ledge, and through the woods. They may or may not be buried. It'll be cheaper just to lay them. If somebody with a large backhoe comes by and doesn't see it and rips it up, causes a break, it is possible to repair and re-splice this thing in a matter of hours. So you don't lose the world. The other nice feature about it is there's no electricity involved. These carry bundles of light, digital pulses, but bundles of light. So there's no electrical risk. No, you're not going to hurt yourself. Nobody's going to electrocute themselves by putting an axe or a...
It sounds sort of unbelievable to me that you could put the stuff above ground and it would survive snow plows and
It won't.
and lawnmowers and stuff like that.
Well,
I mean, are they going to install it underground for if we buy into it?
absolutely. If you want, you can put it underground yourself. At my place, which is over in the Yellow Cottage, my feed will come off the road somewhere, and it'll probably grow through the brush above ground because there's, I'll put flags on it so I don't put my chainsaw through it. But as soon as I get to my lawn, I'm going to get a trencher or an edger, one of those semicircular shaped shovels, and I'll make a 3-inch deep trench.
So it's the consumer's responsibility to do that.
Yeah.
That the company isn't going to do that.
The company will do it for a price.
But not if you just sign on and it says.
It's not, no,
The installation.
the installation fee, which is zero
Yeah.
cost to the subscriber, is to hand you 400 feet, or lay 400 or 200 or 100 feet of this stuff across your lawn. They'll put the box on the wall. They'll put the power plug on the inside wall. All the electronics you need on your house, the cable, plus a splice connection to the main feed someplace in another part of the island. This lays on your lawn, and if you want, you can have somebody come by and dig a trench for you, drop yourself, or you can leave it lay on the lawn or run it through the, you know, if you don't have lawn, if you have woods running to the house, just put it in there.
Inside the house, is that a Cat 5?
Yeah, converts to Cat 5.
So we get our own, did that come with it?
The Cat 5,
No.
I've
No.
got some of that Cat 5.
Inside the house is your responsibility.
Okay,
yeah.
You can plug right there,
right.
you can plug a wireless in there.
Actually, they install a brick, it looks like a little power brick that you would attach to a printer or whatever, and it's got two connections on it. One, they connect this wire to it, and then it's a Cat 5 standard Ethernet cable you connect on the other side of it and put it to your, wherever you want to go, you know, whether you can use it for go to your modem, your internet modem. And you can lease that, by the way, from Axiom as well, or you can buy your own modem.
Yes,
they were
talking about.
Yeah, they lease a modem for $5 a month,
Yeah.
or you can go buy, like I'm gonna get a night block, big powerful router, but,
That's fine.
yeah. So, and then you just connect it, and there's some drawings. If anyone wants to get into specifics of it, I'd be happy to sit down, you know, and go over it, you know, on the inside stuff.
I'm just interested in what the additional charges are for things. If somehow that could get laid out altogether. Like,
Yes.
you know, you get a 15% discount if you pay for your annual fee. But then
The
there
15
are prices if other additional
Well,
installation charges, right?
No.
no,
Not if
not if
you
you start
subscribe.
in the beginning.
Yeah, except that if you want it buried, you've got to get it.
Well, yeah.
But what about the box? Is the box on the outside of the house or the inside of the house?
Outside, there's a box, there are
Like-
two boxes.
There are two boxes outside.
That are similar to what the telephone company, the gray box. is.
Oh, that are on the side of the house, they're similar to that, okay.
And then this power brick that supplies power to them is on the inside. And then your attachment is, that's sort of like a phone jack.
It's like a phone jack, right?
And you attach whatever you want to that. You can either have wires going to something specific, or you can just have a wireless router there that supplies
It's
the
like I have
house.
a rubber now.
with
But
wireless.
all of that is free with the installation, all those attachments on the
Everything
outside,
on the outside, the
or that one
wire
thing
is
on the
free.
inside. There's no other hidden fees.
Initially, it's free. If you don't do the initial setup, then it brings back people to do all the work, and it's gonna be whatever it is, $400 or $500. So it pays to do this $100 initial thing, that you get back in your first couple of months for the installation.
equivalent to that little blinking box?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a little blinking box you got there.
That's a blinking box.
It's
Blinking
sort of like,
LED, little blinky.
it's like the old blinking boxes that didn't do wireless stuff.
Well, to maybe, Bob, you can answer this, right? Because, so the $79.99 is the cheese pizza. Then you start putting toppings on it. Can you give me some ideas when I have pepperoni and mushrooms and all that? What is that gonna be?
Well,
Like, are we gonna get to $200 like I'm paying, you know,
you
Verizon?
could, if you wanted to, you could get it to $200, but those are between you and another company. There's nothing more that you'll get from this company.
Okay.
But if you want to bring Netflix in, you're gonna pay for Netflix $7 or $8, whatever it is now. You gotta,
Nine.
or $9. It automatically comes out of my account, I don't pay that. And phone, if you wanna do phone over it,
Right.
other than your cell phone,
Yeah.
if it has the wireless, or what's it called?
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi calling, there's no extra
Oh,
cost
okay.
for that.
Okay.
If you want a home phone, say you wanna keep your number and have a home phone that goes over this, there are various costs.
Okay.
You know, it's really detailed, all right? I have a worksheet that I put together, okay? I tested it with a number of people. Cheryl gave me some really good input on it. I can sit down with you and in 5 minutes. We can calculate all the costs that you're currently paying, all the services you're paying for, and then what this new service is gonna cost that's comparable or to what you're getting, but you're gonna get blazing fast internet connectivity and on top of it. But you can use your existing phone system. Is this okay, Walt?
Yeah.
I'd say you just sit down and in just a few minutes, you can go through it, right?
So if you wanna hook a TV up to it, you have to talk to Time Warner Cable or something?
Well, no.
No.
George, at a high level, you can subscribe to an internet-based TV service, like DirecTV now. And I got a listing of all the channels you get. It works over the internet. You don't need a dish on your house. You can dump the dish. It works on your internet. You get all the local channels in Portland. You get NESN, because I checked that out for Bob, because he wants Northeast Sports Network. And you get about 65 channels, CBS, NBC, ABC.
Can I get Fox?
All the, for $40 a month.
Thank you.
For $40 a month.
Right now, I'm paying $103 to consolidation. I'm paying $79 to DirecTV. If I go this system, for $90 a month, I have high-speed internet and voice over IP. Voice over IP is a total.
What's that mean? Voice over IP?
That's the first telephone that goes
Use
on
your
the internet.
telephone to.
Internet telephone.
Oh, okay, got it.
People should realize that currently the telephone they're using, their thing they pay consolidated for, most of those end up as VoIP, which is voice over the internet. Because once it gets to their central office, most of it goes out over fiber, just like this. So, and if you're calling overseas, it's over fiber. Everything's voice over internet now, pretty much except the local.
Actually, fiber starts right along that. We go,
That's true, Long Island is fiber.
it's the same technology from the end of Long Island to Consolidated. It's over fiber from there
It
on.
just seems foreign to us, but it's already being
Yeah,
used.
it's already, it's seamless to us, but it's the same technology as you would have in your doorstep versus over Long Island.
Another, just, at a 1,000-foot level, using that as an example, what, 110,
I pay $103 right now.
Okay, $103 a month, so that's $1,200, right? A year he's paying. You can get this service 12 months a year for $980, say it's $1,000. And he gets his VoIP service for, you can go to any VoIP provider, anywhere from $1 to $25.
For free, I mean, Google Voice is free.
Yeah, Google Voice is free, so he's spending $1,000 a month instead of $1,200. I mean, $1,000 a year.
And it spots my DirecTV.
Right, and then he doesn't spend $80 a month at DirecTV, he pays $10 if he wants to.
Now, this is the way to go, folks. You can say, "What am I needing?"
What happened to the negative map we used to have?
I still, wait a minute, I still feel we should go south instead of, but that's my personal opinion. I mean, if this is the way I do it, I think I'm for it. But personally, being in the business, I would have gone south instead of, fine, but that's another.
You would have gone what?
South.
Wireless.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's.
How many people did you take a survey of everybody on this island, every house?
There was a survey done.
And how many people are gonna sign up?
Well, that's the key.
That's it. We need people to sign up.
We need 60.
Okay, so this company says, okay, you get 40, it's just the same amount, it's not profitable for them to do this.
I mean, it won't do it. It won't work.
They won't do it. You have to have 60
60
houses.
people, and right now I have 25.
That's less than
Actually,
half.
27, but Bobby and I still haven't signed
I
up.
added 2 this morning.
You guys,
There's a lot of people who promise.
Well, promise, I'm sorry, that's
Well-
me, I promise a lot of things, but
Well,
I
currently-
it doesn't come true.
Currently, very few of the year-round people, most of the year-round people, this saves a lot of money because they can get rid of their satellite. And many of them are paying $250 a month for satellite and
Right,
phone
right.
and internet. So that's whatever it is, 20 houses or something. So that.
We're just on island time, we
Double
haven't done
that.
it yet.
And most people are, the deadline isn't for a while. If the deadline were yesterday, I think you'd find we had 60 or more.
Oh, no, that's fine, I know that'd be a cutoff.
I know, but the number,
If the only people in this room are the others gonna sign up, I don't think this
No.
company's gonna.
no, the number number of people saying I need to call, that have talked to me and said I need to call, is a fair number of people, so.
And they're
I
also,
can't count them, but.
they're also working on, getting the library, the post office, the school, and they count as more than.
That's
one.
another equivalent of 10 houses.
Oh, right.
Oh, that's a good point.
But I think one of the best.
Because the reason it's equivalent to 10, each one of those pays close to $500 a month. The library and
Okay.
two main schools and libraries.
You
The
hook up.
library and the school.
Are you automatically then, the $89 a month, automatic, or can you say, I'll hook it up now? And then, you know, we'll see how the bugs understood. Once you get that hooked up to your house, are you automatically at least gonna pay $80 a month?
I mean, are you required to keep your service?
No contract.
There's no
Okay,
contract.
so right now, signing up and just getting it to your house is the $99.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, no.
Oh, you get
That's the
that.
first.
What'd you get back?
Yeah, but no,
Get back.
I'm just saying,
Once-
so then,
once
take a
you're-
year from now, I go, yeah, you know what, guys, I really want it. Then I just pay the $79 or $89 a month, whatever the fee is.
I'm confused. I'm confused. Say.
So-
Okay, I sign up now.
Time out.
I sign up now,
Yeah,
it costs me $100.
yeah,
I have it running to my house.
yeah.
The minute I do that, am I automatically going to pay automatic? I pay the $79, $80 a month? Or do I say, right now, I just want the hookup? I do not want your service.
You have a year.
A year to, okay.
Yeah, and then the reason for that, couple reasons, complicated, but the simplest one is there's some people who are having work done on their houses. And they want to take advantage of the free hookup, but the house isn't ready, they're not gonna be in it. We'll give them a year. And if you don't use the service within a year, you lose your $100
Yeah.
and you don't get the service. And a year or two after that, if you want to sign up and hook up, it's $500 to hook up. So,
Well, if Rick pays his $99, and then he says, but don't start charging me the $79 a month because I'm not using it, does he count as one of the 60?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Initially, that's
Oh, yeah.
all we have is
Yeah.
people who say they're gonna, who
Yeah.
give them.
All I want is 60 people to commit. If they don't all sign up the first year, well, we'll lose money the first year. If they all, but we're gonna give them 12 months to sign up and start using it.
And it's gonna be so good.
Look, I'm not,
They do
I've-
find,
I've talked to the people who are signed up, who are likely to sign up. I am unconcerned about meeting the goal of 60
I don't think
by
that
October
would be
1st. No problem.
and they have found Axiom has found on other islands that once people start getting it, other people wanna get in because they find
Because it's so superior.
It's so superior to them, so.
But I think one of the best selling points, and I've convinced several people, is that this is the future.
Yeah.
You know, you got an old family member who doesn't have internet, but they decided their kids are gonna get that house, their grandchildren are gonna get the house, so why not invest now when it's cheaper? And it worked, and I think a lot of us have to talk it up and say, it's not just this year or next year, it's the future of the island. It's where we're going. And Walt's told us this has been good for 30 years, and he's right. And that's, we have to convince people that way, that it's not just now, it's the future. Because 10 years from now, it might cost you double to get it installed with all the technology that goes behind it. So I think we all need to push the thing at the future to put fiber, not just the present group. You know,
Thank you.
I don't know. Does that sound good?
Sounds good to me, man.
I
I got a $100 bill in my wallet, I'm gonna give it to you this
I
night.
got you $10 here, man.
You know, it has worked. I had talked some people into it because of that angle, because it's the future. It's not just now.
And a case could be made that it also raises the value of your house, because with this system on the island, for people who really, who wanna spend the summer here and be able to work from home during the summer and stuff, I think there's the potential of raising value somehow.
In the telecommuting,
Yeah.
industry is just exploding.
Go ahead.
I just would like to see if I understand, because I'm beginning to see what we would probably do. In other words, we've already signed up. I mean, we've done our 99, we're one of the people in there, and we'll stay in it.
Yeah.
Given that, what I think I'm hearing is that if we just install it and then pay the $917 annual fee and buy our own router,
Yeah.
we can we pay our $900, put our router in, and then if we want telephone, if we have an iPhone or something through AT&T,
Yeah.
no extra charge, that's included.
Correct.
Now, if
That's
we-
what I have today.
and now if we want to use a computer on the island, it's gonna be a different story. We have to now make a deal with Time Warner Cable in order.
No.
to-
No, this you can use your computer right on this system.
This is internet-based for your computer, is what it is.
You're getting
It's
rid
made in
of
tech.
it.
So we can, so the internet, all the stuff that I Google and everything on the internet comes with this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay,
They
so
all-
that
they all-
takes care of telephone. The only thing that we have to pay for additionally is if we want television, we have to buy a television service from Time Warner Cable.
Oh, no,
Well,
no,
except,
from somebody.
there's some, you can sneak things. I mean, if you have Amazon Prime, you may or may not have, you get free movies through Amazon Prime, you get things included in the Amazon Prime price. So if you have that anyway, there are things included. There are various things like that.
We don't
that
have
you can do.
We don't have it.
This is another conversation.
Do you-
This is something else.
I'm just saying-
The TV service, what is that?
But I heard $8 for that.
Do you have Time Warner somewhere else? Do you have Time Warner somewhere else?
Yes.
Sure.
Because if you have Time Warner somewhere else, you can use your Time Warner account over the internet.
You can use it over the
For an additional
internet.
fee?
No,
No.
it's included in your Time Warner bill.
It's yours.
Oh.
So you can have time on
Now
I can stream
You
Time
just
Warner
log
stuff
into
on
it
my
here.
here
So can I.
because I manage the fireboats internet in town, so I can use the fireboats on Time Warner here.
Or if you have Fios or whatever.
I mean, even now, I can stream almost anything. Any TV show that's on TV, I can stream on my laptop and watch it.
Oh, yeah, we stream.
Okay, I mean,
It's the same
Oh, I don't
thing.
know.
the capability is there,
The
you
TVs
don't have to pay very much
have
on
the same
TV.
Right.
Televisions can do the same thing.
The access is enormous.
Oh, if you already have Time Warner contract, you're golden.
Or you can get it.
So you're talking about additional blocks. Basically, setting
Then you need a big
about
one.
90 maybe just to get
One that has.
really $8.
Hey Bob, I have a question. If I buy something like ESPN, which I don't have, my television is fine. I don't have any, HBO or anything like that. I just have I have a Netflix service, and I have local channels, and I get the channels I want. But if I wanted to get ESPN, keep my husband happy, would I pay less than for that? Like when Matt was talking about, what DirecTV would cost with this new fiber optic versus the satellite thing? Is a monthly charge for something like ESPN
think you can just
HBO, less expensive?
I'm not sure.
We do have it at home.
If you have it, so you have it at home, so you may be able to do what David said.
Peaceful.
Yeah.
Use
I have it at home.
use
If
it
you
like,
have it at home, you can have
if
it.
your service allows you to do it over the internet, because you're paying somewhere and you can use it when you're away from home,
Mhm.
then it won't cost you anything, I assume, the way David
Yeah.
talks.
You can get everything.
What service do you have at home?
Spectrum,
So Time Warner.
Oh, Time Warner?
yeah.
Okay, so then the answer would be yes. I think the answer
Yeah,
is
you
yes.
can watch anything, you'll be able to watch in your house here,
Once I have, this
Sir,
once you're on this service.
fiber optic,
Yeah.
you'll get everything here that you get
that I
at
get home. Oh, that is really.
It's not quite as easy, but
But I
yeah.
have Fios.
TV station.
Yeah.
Quite as easy, yeah, it's very strong.
Well,
It's close to that. It was better than what you said. That's what we want. But agency, you name it, you can get it right now, get it at the right speed.
I got you.
You know, if you're lucky.
Okay,
One question, one point. There's a summary slide, you can read through it or ignore it. It basically says, we need two things to make this thing work, and make it work fast. And that is to encourage the people who have not yet committed, signed up, to call up Axiom and get their $99 to them so that the investors who we're still trying to attract have some confidence that there's gonna be enough revenue coming in to pay them back. That's the job of everybody here. Sign up, please. Tell your neighbors to get on the phone. My job is to relay those results to the potential investors. Right now, I'm a little over half. I have commitments from the investors on a little more than half of what we need to have by October 1st. These are firm commitments from people. I still have a lot of work to do to talk to more people and twist arms to get all the way there. If we don't get all the way there with investment, with the capital we need to build, I don't have a plan B. I don't have a plan B.
If it's required that the school has to have a certain level of whatever, well, what does Portland do? Aren't they responsible to maintain the school? I mean, if we're looking at I don't.
It's a good question. I don't know the answer, but I know that it costs $500,000 to lay the necessary cable to get it to the school. I don't understand.
I mean, if you said, look, we'll do it, but pony up something. I mean, you're required to do it.
We're trying to get the city.
Oh, okay, no, I'm
we're
just
trying to get the
okay.
city
I
to
just
help
make,
us.
and I know you're probably looking at an avenue, but
that money comes out of your phone bill. The money that will pay for that comes out of your phone bill. It's a state thing.
Oh, sure it does.
The city, I guess, isn't really involved in it.
that's the main state schools in
That's the main state.
Yeah.
tool.
I mean, yeah, it's just, you know.
So really and truly, a lot of these angles, I'm glad these questions got brought up, but the group has definitely researched a lot of
Oh,
these
no, I'm
things.
sure you have.
So that's good.
But, you know,
The city is being cooperative with us,
Sure.
trying to
You
get,
sold
give us
me
some
on
help.
if you saw things, believe me, you think they should direct what, I mean, I'm quoting it.
So-
It's gonna be,
yeah.
I'm not a
We're
bomb.
gonna get there, I have faith.
I think just along the lines, have you looked at federal grants, to like make up some of this?
We're part of a city.
That makes it.
Because we're not considered rural,
Yeah.
we're part of the city.
We're
So we
two
get into
things.
catch-22.
We're not rural, we are part of a city, and secondly, this is not a non-profit organization, it's for-profit. Just-
Yeah, it
And
is.
Island Institute has been really helpful in, the only kind of grants that are really out there have been for building the plan, when we already have the plan. And they helped us with that.
Okay, so like,
So there's not a lot of money for the actual material, the build out.
I mean, $20,000, well,
I know.
only up to money for the school.
And I'm really frustrated because the state can't donate.
Okay. All right.
One last one?
Does the cable, if we signed up for the 50 megawatts, whatever they are, we signed up for that. When the cable is laid, and if I retire the island and want to work through the cable and I want to go to the 100, do I have to have another cable laid? or-
No, just make a phone call.
Same cable,
They
okay.
dial it up.
They can switch in a day.
The other thing that, when I called them, and set this thing up, I didn't understand, they said, what do you want to do with the modem? In other words, I understood it was required that then and there, either to agree to the modem or
No,
go and get it on my own for an unspecified amount. If it's a modem that I have to buy, $1,000 modem, or is it $200 or $300?
$100 or something like that.
Just go into Best Buy or somewhere.
Yeah.
consolidated ones we're using, you could actually use those without the, as just the modem part.
Well, there's people on the island who now use a Fairpoint modem.
And rather than using the telephone wire to send the signal, you can come in with their internet wire and do it, and just use it as a wireless hub.
That's what you have.
Okay, so the modem is
There'll
not
be
a
plenty of
magic
trouble around.
The modem is any old modem that you buy in the store.
Consolidate.
There's only one advantage to having their modem is they can go, if you're having trouble, they can get into your modem and see what the trouble is.
Yeah.
Whether that's worth it, I mean, Dave can go over and do that sort of thing.
Bob can go over and do that.
Dave can go
That's
over and do that.
Bob's better at it.
So, I mean, that's the only advantage is they can troubleshoot that modem if there are issues. Modems are pretty good these days. You seldom have issue in modems.
Well, then
Yeah.
Can I buy that modem from this company? They said,
No, they're only renting theirs as far as I know.
It's a rent. Now, how can we buy one like they would rent us?
Yes, yeah, you can buy anything.
They're, the one,
On eBay.
but the one that you won't have that small advantage of having them to be able to get into one that you buy, as far as I know. So I think only the ones they rent, you have that advantage. But whether it's worth $60 a year, that's up to you.
Bonnie,
Yeah, I just have a quick
Bonnie has a
question.
question.
I just have a quick question, because I need your help with the sales pitch on, for my sister. So my I'm trying to convince my sister for that hookup to go to my parents' house. Now, she doesn't own the house yet, my parents don't even own the computer, so it'll be a while. But, you know, I'm trying to convince my sister to go in now. But clearly, she's not gonna make that 1 year, deadline. So if she says, well, if it's gonna cost me $500 in the future, even though I paid the $900 to hook it up, the actual infrastructure, then I might as well wait. If it's gonna cost me $500 an hour later, right? So it's really not a good pitch to her because she really might as well wait.
And that's fine.
But you just lose the $100, but they're gonna take out what they've installed? Or just I wait 3 years and go, okay, I'm ready now. I already have it installed. I just lose the $100, or do I,
I don't know if we've actually pinned Mark down on what happens.
Mark is just kind of counting on
I mean,
good
3
faith
years,
efforts.
so 3 years,
This is
$100,
what the project is
lose
gonna be
$100,
that
less than saving $100 down the
Somebody
road.
has it installed
I mean,
now.
so, but if it's in,
I don't think we know exactly what it's gonna cost if
I don't
somebody
think the
waits
equipment's
5
that
years.
much that they're gonna bother taking it out of your house.
No, they're not gonna take it out.
They're
Well,
gonna
no,
just shut it off,
Yeah.
and when you wanna turn it on, they'll charge you $500 to turn it on.
oh,
And
okay,
then
all right,
it's
so
a monthly
that could be
fee.
done, okay.
3 years down the
I
road.
don't know,
Yeah.
I don't know that that's true.
We don't know the answer.
Okay.
We don't know the answer yet.
So let's say for the 5 years.
We need to ask
That's the way
that
it should be.
specific question. We need to ask that
That's the
specific
way it
question,
should be.
which we have not.
Yeah, because if she could get that extra, that $99 put towards when she wants to turn it on, then instead of 500, it's 400 or whatever.
The reason
What's the
behind,
incentive?
the reason that we've been told for the high cost of doing it later is somebody will have to come down, the cable will have to be laid, somebody will have to come down and do all the splicing of the cable. So there's a fair amount involved if you don't do it visually.
And could be a delay because they won't come out here unless there's at least 5 installations.
Right.
But
So
if
you
you
might have to wait
So
until you get it.
that stuff not being involved, it may only be a couple $100 to have it started.
What Bonnie suggested.
So we have to ask that
Yeah,
specific
because
question.
I'd like to convince my sister to do it on my parents' house, even though they're not gonna use it for a while.
What Bonnie suggested is say,
Well, it
take the
supports
$100 off the $100
in
installation.
the future.
Okay.
That's really what it is.
So you
That's
should
what-
have the installation
that's what all the good
to keep
things
you
are.
from just turning on to the summer, turning on.
Maybe in that-
But if she thinks it's gonna cost me the same later.
Okay.
What you got, George?
What's wrong with this strategy? We sign up, we say yes, and we rent the modem. And then, after we have rented the modem and used it for 4 or 5 months, if we're finding out that we're not using that very much, we still continue to pay in advance for the first year on a frequent basis. And then just shop for a modem.
Yep.
and get them how they work, and that's
I've
why
done that, people have done that with phones back when the phone company used to rent phones to people. They said they bring their phones back, because years ago, back when, you know, when you had that old phone and it was, it said,
what is it, if you've been shopping for those, what do they actually cost?
they're about 79 to, depending on what you want, 79 to $500.
You know,
If you want one that broadcasts wireless signal across the island, they're a lot of money.
Not a big deal.
it's not a huge amount, and your house is a small house, so you don't need, I mean, they have fancy modems with 20 antennas on them. For bigger houses, they have things, your house is small, you don't need much, you probably can find a unit one somewhere for next to nothing.
Okay.
Do you have a modem in your house right now?
Yes.
Yeah,
Same size?
yeah, and we rent it from Time Warner Cable, and every month I wonder why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you should,
So buy one for $80.
you don't need to rent it. At home, you don't need to rent theirs. You can buy one for $100 and something and not pay that rent. A lot of people do that.
Well, we probably are.
So that you can, and you'd be able to do that here.
That's
Buy
why
your own, not pay
the
the
modem part, I find it has me all charged with all kinds of anxiety, because I hate the modem, I hate paying for rent, the modem.
Well, I think it's probably important that we get to Mark and get an answer on this
Yes,
$99 thing.
that's right.
And let's get it to Bonnie and be prepared for anyone else, because
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That could affect how many houses sign on. Because I think I could convince my sister to do it if she knew it was, now is the time, you know. But if she thought it was the same if she waited 5 years, that might change her. She might wait until she inherits a house, you know. Well,
Your father would never know if she had it in there now.
He wouldn't know. Don't tell
So do you guys have cable at home?
yeah, we do.
So that question David answered.
him. All of
Should apply to you.
ESPN,
Yeah, so you
ESPN2,
get it here for, you should be able to get it here for nothing.
FXX?
FXX.
FXX.
Let
I don't know what the hell that is.
me give you an example. Let me give you an example of this issue. At home, I have DirecTV in New Hampshire. When I come to the island, I turn on my television set and I watch all the channels that I have at home. And it comes through a very slow, crappy connection with Fairpoint, consolidated. And when I replace it with a fiber optic link, it will be much, much faster. But I still watch all the same channels.
Plus you jump the dish in your house too.
Plus I can rent Netflix movies here, right now. Plus I get Wi-Fi calling, which is cell service that I can't get on that side of the island. And the only thing that's gonna change is my speed is gonna go up to a factor of 8 faster. And it's gonna cost me less money. Okay?
That doesn't sound like a good plan.
More for less.
More for less, yeah.
I'm glad you said that about the cable stuff, Dave, because I didn't realize that, because I don't have cable somewhere else. But that's important for people who do. you know?
You bet.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I mean, that drops their price. They don't have to have any costs. If they're
Any
using
of
their
the
cell phone.
network shows I can watch on this here.
Yeah.
But even if you have satellite at home,
That's what I
See,
you
I-
can stream. you
My
can
home, I
stream-
have satellite, but I'm paying $150 for it.
No, but I'm just talking about.
No,
But see,